Dr. Annadale. I teach philosophy at Mount St. Mary's University in Emmitsburg, Maryland. In Nicomachean Ethics, Book 10, Chapter 6, Aristotle does three things. First, he gives an outline account of happiness. Keep in mind throughout that Aristotle has defined happiness as virtuous action or active virtue. He argues that happiness is an activity, not a state, and that happiness is worthy of choice in itself, not for the sake of anything else. Virtuous action, in fact, is like this, because doing noble and good actions is worthy of choice in itself. The second thing Aristotle does in this chapter is to distinguish virtuous action from pleasurable amusements. Many people who are called happy indulge in these amusements and are prominent at the courts of tyrants. But this is a bad thing, because nobody would hold up a tyrant as an example of an excellent, well-lived human life. The fact that tyrants prefer these kind of amusements should automatically make us a bit suspicious. Thus, it seems that pleasant amusements are somehow connected to happiness, but the prominence of such people proves nothing about the nature of happiness. This is because virtue and intellect, the sources of good action, do not depend on political power. These people, tyrants and their courtiers, who have never felt genuine pleasure, the pleasure that comes from doing good and noble deeds, then resort to physical pleasure instead. But this is no reason for us to prefer physical pleasures to the pleasures of virtue. Aristotle points out that children think that what they honor is best, but children are mistaken in this. A group of kids may think that the kid who can run the fastest or spit the farthest is somehow superior and really worthy of praise. But if we find an adult, a man in his 30s, who thinks the same thing, we would say, quite rightly, that he has failed to mature. He's failed to put aside his childish views and adopt a more serious, mature attitude toward what is truly valuable in human life. Just as children misjudge what is best in life, so too do bad people, people who lack virtue. Then Aristotle makes what I think is one of the most important points in this chapter. He tells us that what is honorable and pleasant in itself and objectively is what is honorable and pleasant for the good person. For each person, what is most worthy of choice, what is most pleasant, is what accords with his own proper state. And for good people, their proper state is goodness or virtue. So they find virtuous activity pleasant and choice-worthy. The lesson here is that not everyone finds virtuous activity equally pleasant. Good people find virtuous activity most pleasant and easiest to choose because it fits best with the way they already are. People who are becoming good will struggle more to see and feel the objective value of virtuous activity, and they will struggle to choose it consistently. The third thing that Aristotle does in this chapter is to refute the view that happiness is the same as amusement or pleasure. He gives three reasons that happiness does not consist in amusement. First, it would be absurd if our end were amusement, if we labored and suffered all our lives for the sake of nothing more than amusing ourselves. We choose virtually everything for the sake of something else, except for happiness, which is the highest human good, the target of all our choosing and desiring. We're coming close here to something that we would call, in our time, the meaning of life, the ultimate goal of human existence, the thing that all of our struggling and striving and choosing and desiring is directed towards. But serious work and exertion for the sake of amusement is manifestly foolish and extremely childish. Is it possible that we struggle and suffer our whole lives for nothing better than amusement? No, says Aristotle, that would be completely irrational. The world is not that way. The second reason Aristotle gives is that the happy life implies a level of seriousness, and so is not spent just in amusement. We commonly say that serious things are better than funny or amusing things, and that the activity of the better person, or the better part of a person, think here of reason being superior to appetite, is more serious and more virtuous. And the activity of the better person or part is superior, and for this very reason is more conducive to happiness. So human happiness will be found in the actions of good and superior people, and in the desires of the higher and better parts of the soul. The third reason Aristotle gives that amusement and happiness are not the same is that anyone can feel amusement. even a slave. But no one calls a slave happy in the sense of flourishing or excellent, unless he shares in some way in the higher life of virtuous and noble actions. So we praise a slave as happy only if, despite his enslaved state, he is able to do noble and good actions. We say then that he has transcended his enslaved state to be a truly excellent human being. This brings us to the end of Book 10, Chapter 6 of Aristotle's Nicomachean Ethics. Thanks for watching today. Goodbye.